You enter retirement thinking you'll finally feel peace. But what you find is a new kind of pressure. Quieter, more dangerous, and far more expensive. You've prepared, saved, followed advice, avoided the biggest retirement mistakes. But there's one thing no one tells you. The first 5 years of retirement aren't a reward. They're a test. And if you fail that test, there's no recovery. Because it doesn't destroy your money all at once. It does something far worse. It eats it away slowly. In those early years, everything feels magical. You wake up without an alarm. No boss, no Monday mornings. But that taste of freedom hides subtle poisons, invisible expenses, poorly timed decisions, wrong withdrawals, habits that seem harmless, but quietly turn into new, expensive routines. And before you realize it, that solid plan that once felt bulletproof starts to melt, quietly, without warning. It's like building a house on quicksand. And the craziest part? Almost no one notices. Because it doesn't hurt at first. The statements still look good. The 401k is still growing. The social security checks keep coming. But underneath, a trap is forming. And it catches even the ones who did everything right. That's why, in this video, I'm going to show you the 10 invisible traps that silently break the retirements of even the most prepared Americans, including one you might already be living right now without realizing it. But here's a warning. If you leave before the final topic, you'll miss the one mistake that looks like success, yet keeps even millionaires up at night. It's the mistake of waiting to feel secure, instead of building a system that protects you. The honeymoon year that breaks bank accounts. Everyone dreams of the day they can finally turn off the alarm clock for good. Retirement feels like waking up in a new world. No meetings, no boss, no gray Mondays. And at first, many people shift straight into celebration mode. Trips, dinners, gifts for the grandkids. I've earned it, they say. And you know what? They have. The problem is when celebrating freedom quietly turns into a new lifestyle without anyone realizing that the bill always comes later. During the first 12 to 18 months, this behavior is more common than most think. And why? Because the money is still there. The account still looks full. The balance still feels solid, and that creates a false sense of control. A cruise here, an upgrade there, an extra little treat. After all, they're just small rewards, right? Wrong. Those tiny rewards morph into sneaky habits, slowly inflating monthly expenses without anyone noticing. I once met a couple who retired with about $900,000. In their first year, they took a cross-country motorhome trip across the US. Remodeled their house, added solar panels, and bought a new car. Everything seemed fine, until the math hit. They were spending 45% more than planned. It wasn't one big mistake. It was dozens of small ones. And the real danger? None of them felt like mistakes at the time. This behavior connects directly to one of the most common retirement planning mistakes, ignoring the emotional impact of that first year. It's a period of euphoria, a sense of freedom that makes people impulsive. The issue isn't the big dream trip. It's the everyday lifestyle creep that slowly takes over, setting a new normal that was never in the plan. And that new normal is dangerous. Because once it takes hold, it's painful to go backward. Cutting back hurts far more than leveling up. By the time most retirees realize it, they're already paying for time. Every single day. That's when the real danger begins. Money stops being a tool and becomes an emotional crutch. But the worst part? What's truly draining their savings in those early years is something almost no one sees coming. The invisible shift. Now you're paying for time for decades. Routine acted as a kind of shield. Wake up, work, eat lunch at the same time, go home. There wasn't much room for impulsive spending. Time was occupied. But in retirement, that structure disappears. And suddenly, a new quiet question emerges. What am I going to do today? The answer almost always involves spending. A coffee out, a quick trip to the mall, a small gift for the grandkid, a might as well get free shipping purchase. And just like that, the day fills up with costs. That's where many people make one of the biggest retirement mistakes. They start paying for time. It doesn't feel wrong at first because the amounts are small, but it's like a leaky faucet. One drop doesn't hurt, but a month later, the bucket's overflowing. Retirees rarely blow their budgets with a single purchase. They drain their savings through quiet, repetitive habits. And it all starts with boredom, disguised as freedom. One example I always bring up is a friend who, after retiring, started going out to lunch almost every day. It wasn't about luxury, it was about company, about filling the hours. In 6 months, his dining expenses had doubled, even though his household grocery spending stayed the same. "It's just lunch," he'd say. But it was lunch every day, plus gas, parking, tips, small extras that added up to thousands a year. This kind of mistake doesn't appear in books about investing for retirement because it's emotional, not technical. It's not about where to put your 401k. It's about how to fill your days without quietly emptying your wallet. Some retirees find smart alternatives: free reading groups, community walks, gardening, volunteering, activities that fill time without draining money. But that takes awareness. It doesn't happen by default. And what makes this trap even more dangerous is how people try to fix it. They either go to extremes, cut everything and feel miserable, or ignore it and dig deeper. But there's a simple, powerful, almost unknown strategy that solves this without pain. A practical way to regain control without sacrificing quality of life. And like most things that actually work, it's so obvious that very few people ever apply it. Quick pause here. If at any point in this video you thought, "Wow, why has no one ever explained this to me before?" then do this right now. Hit the subscribe button and drop a like. This isn't about the algorithm, it's about awareness. Every video on this channel is a piece of a puzzle you'll be grateful to have put together. Don't just watch passively, take part. Decide right now that your retirement will be different from the average. And that decision starts with one simple click. The layered spending rule. The simple way to stop self-sabotage. There's a quiet misconception in retirement planning. The belief that you only have 2 choices. Either live well or save responsibly. As if enjoying retirement and being smart with money were opposites. But there's a middle ground. And it starts with a simple concept. Spending in layers. It's not a magic formula. It's a practical strategy. You create 3 budget levels and learn to move between them as life and the market change. Here's how it works. First, the essential mode. Your foundation for living well without luxuries, but without strain. Second, the comfort mode. A pleasant lifestyle with room for small indulgences. Third, the premium mode. Travel, gifts, special experiences. The key is flexibility. Switch between these layers depending on the market, your health, or your goals. When things are good, enjoy comfort or premium. When markets dip, return to essential. It's strategic, adaptable, and incredibly freeing. One retiree who used this system told me that when the market dropped in 2020, he simply paused 2 wine club subscriptions, postponed an international trip, and started driving less. Nothing extreme. The result? He protected his portfolio without losing peace of mind. That's the point. You don't have to stop living. You just adjust the tempo. And when that adjustment is planned, it doesn't hurt. It's like downshifting on a winding road. It gives you control. This approach also brings something rare: predictability. You know exactly what your costs are in each mode. That helps you make smarter decisions when investing, withdrawing, or reassessing goals. More importantly, it kills that panic most retirees feel when their portfolio drops. Because now, you've got a plan, a system. You're no longer a prisoner of a fixed lifestyle that doesn't match reality. But even with this system, many retirees make one mistake that seems harmless, yet can undo years of discipline. A mistake that has nothing to do with how much you spend, and everything to do with where that money comes from first. And that single decision, made on autopilot, can cost you years of financial peace. The wrong withdrawal sequence that destroys the plan. Most people, when they retire, think like this: I need money, I'll pull it from my main account. Sounds logical, right? But this is where one of the biggest retirement mistakes hides. That main account often isn't a single thing. It's a mix. Some might be in a 401k, some in a Roth IRA, some in a taxable account, and the order in which you withdraw from them changes everything. Getting that sequence wrong is like cooking with the right ingredients, but in the wrong order. The result falls apart. What most people don't realize is that withdrawing first from a taxable or pre-tax account can trigger a huge and totally avoidable tax hit. Real example: a retiree I worked with pulled everything from his 401k in the early years. The result? He jumped into a higher tax bracket, paid way more than necessary, and accelerated his required minimum distributions, RMDs. If he had started by taking a portion from his taxable account instead, He could have saved thousands in taxes over time, without changing his lifestyle at all. Finding the ideal withdrawal sequence takes planning, but it's not rocket science. Often, the smartest move is a blend, part from the traditional account, part from the Roth, part from the taxable. That balance spreads out the tax burden, extends the life of your portfolio, and softens the impact on benefits like Social Security. Many retirees unknowingly reduce their benefit value just by withdrawing in the wrong order, all because they had no strategy. A good financial planner can help you structure this, but even if you're doing it solo, it's worth learning the basics. Books like The Retirement Savings Time Bomb by Ed Slott or How to Make Your Money, Last by Jane Bryant Quinn, explain these nuances in plain English. The withdrawal order isn't a footnote, it's the engine. And once you understand that, you stop seeing your money as a static balance and start seeing it as a coordinated system. But even with everything planned perfectly, even if you withdraw from the right place at the right time, there's one variable that can still flip the game, a force that doesn't depend on knowledge or discipline or even timing. And the cruelest part, it tends to strike in the first few years of retirement, right when everything seems under control. The bad timing trap in your early retirement years. Few people talk about this in retirement planning guides, but there's one risk factor that even experts fear: timing. Imagine retiring right as the market crashes. Your portfolio drops 20%, maybe 30%, and you still have to keep withdrawing money to live. Feels unfair, right? But that's reality for many retirees. And it's not just about temporary losses. It's about ripping out the roots of what should have kept growing for years to come. One of the worst possible scenarios is having to sell assets at a loss early in retirement. Why? Because you end up selling more just to cover the same expenses. And in doing so, you kill the compounding effect of your investments. Your money stops working for you. It's like starting a marathon with a twisted ankle. You can keep going, but the pain will follow you for a long time. I once met two retirees, both starting with $750,000. One began withdrawing in 2019 when the market was strong. The other started in 2022 during heavy volatility. 3 years later, the gap between them was nearly $200,000. The second had to sell during a downturn, crippling future growth and living in constant fear of more declines. The tragic part? He didn't do anything wrong. He just had bad timing. This risk has a name: sequence of returns risk. It's one of the most crucial, yet most ignored, concepts in investing for retirement. The best protection? Build a cash buffer. Keep 2 to 3 years of expenses in cash or ultra-conservative assets. That way, when the market drops, you can withdraw from your reserve and give your portfolio time to recover. It's the difference between reacting with panic or responding with strategy. But what usually happens? The moment retirees see their portfolios fall, they rush to what feels like safety. A place that looks comforting, stable, even smart. But look closer, and you'll see that this so-called safe harbor often turns into a silent prison. And that prison is called home ownership. Your home becomes a safe and an anchor. For most people, the home is the ultimate symbol of stability. After decades of mortgage payments, it's finally yours. And that comforting thought kicks in: at least I'll always have a roof over my head. It's true, but only halfway, because a paid-off home isn't the same as a cheap home. And maintaining one can quietly become one of the biggest retirement mistakes. A hidden threat disguised as comfort. It starts small: electricity, water, basic maintenance. But then come the extras: a leaky roof, clogged gutters, a broken air conditioner in the middle of summer. Before you know it, you've spent $12,000 in a year just on repairs. Add to that property taxes, homeowner's insurance, and the cost of keeping a car simply because you live far from services. And suddenly, comfort turns into weight. Emotional weight, financial weight. I once worked with a couple who spent about 20% of their annual budget just on housing-related costs. When we reviewed their numbers, it became clear keeping that big house was the main thing stopping them from traveling, seeing their grandkids more often, and living with ease. The solution? Downsizing. They sold the house, bought a smaller one closer to town, and reinvested the rest. Within 6 months, their lifestyle felt lighter, freer. Of course, it's not easy. There's attachment, memories. But you have to look at your home through the lens of your future, not your past. Yes, it can be a safe, a valuable asset. But it can also be an anchor, dragging down your freedom if it's draining cash and limiting choices. That's something few retirement tips ever mention. The emotional cost of keeping what you no longer need, just because it once mattered. And when money starts to tighten under these invisible costs, a new temptation appears, a noble, human instinct, one that feels right in the moment, but can quietly sink even the most well-intentioned retiree. That instinct? Helping the ones you love financially. The generous retiree trap, family and friends edition. When someone in the family needs help, who do they call first? The retiree. Because the logic goes, they're not working anymore. They must have extra money. And that's where the cycle begins. A little loan here, a credit card favor there, a just this once transfer to a grandchild. It doesn't come from greed, it comes from love. But love without boundaries turns into a financial sinkhole. Many retirees don't go broke from overspending, but from overgiving. I knew a woman who, with the best intentions, supported 3 adult children and 2 grandkids. She paid for tuition, lent her car, covered emergencies. She'd say, "I just want to give them what I never had." But little by little, her 25-year retirement plan started shrinking. The heartbreaking part? When she finally needed help, no one could return the favor. Because she wasn't just supporting a family, she was sustaining an illusion that she was the safety net. This is one of the hardest retirement mistakes to spot. Helping others feels good. It gives purpose. But your primary mission in retirement is to protect your independence. If you fall, you can't lift anyone else. I often tell my clients, help, but with a ceiling. Set a monthly limit, create a help fund, or even use symbolic contracts when lending money. Boundaries don't kill generosity, they preserve it. And here's the key. Saying no isn't selfish, it's responsible. It teaches others that your retirement isn't a bottomless well. Every dollar you give away without strategy today might cost you your freedom tomorrow. Honest conversations, shared plans, and structured support, like paying for a course instead of handing out cash, can make the difference between empowering someone and enabling them. But even if you master this balance, there's still a quieter threat, one that doesn't show up in emotional pleas or monthly bills. It lurks in numbers, but behaves like a ghost. It drains your savings without warning, and by the time you notice, thousands are gone. That ghostly enemy? Taxes. Now I want to hear from you. What's the most impulsive financial decision you've ever made? The one that felt right in the moment, but later made you think twice. Drop it in the comments. It can be a sentence, a quick story, or just a thought. Because maybe your mistake is the wake-up call someone else needs to avoid the same path. And if you've never shared it with anyone, maybe now's the time. No judgment here. We're all learning. Sometimes your truth is the turning point in someone else's story. Taxes, the silent enemy of your early retirement years. Most people assume that once they retire, their taxes will drop. After all, there's no paycheck anymore, right? Wrong. What changes in retirement isn't the existence of taxes, but the way they hit you. You start withdrawing from your 401k, selling assets, collecting Social Security, and without realizing it, you're stacking multiple taxable income sources in the same year. The result? You jump into a higher tax bracket without increasing your lifestyle by a single inch. Take a classic example. A retiree sells some stocks to renovate his house, withdraws from his 401k for a trip, and starts collecting Social Security, all in 1 year. The outcome? He pays more in taxes than when he was working full-time. The crazy part is that none of those actions were wrong on their own. The mistake was not seeing their combined effect. That kind of oversight drains retirement savings faster than most people realize. That's why tax planning is one of the most underrated parts of retirement planning. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes just spacing withdrawals over 2 years, or mixing in tax-free Roth accounts, can make a huge difference. Another smart move? Gradually converting portions of your 401k into a Roth IRA during low-income years, paying less tax now to avoid a bigger hit later. It's like taking a vaccine today, to avoid the ICU tomorrow. And here's the kicker. Taxes can even sneak into your benefits. In some cases, part of your Social Security becomes taxable if your combined income crosses certain thresholds. Meaning, you could end up paying tax on money that's supposed to support you. It's like getting charged to receive a gift. And all of this happens quietly. No warning, no pain. Until you see the tax bill. But if taxes are the invisible expense, there's another one that's even more unpredictable. One that doesn't ask for permission, doesn't show up in your spreadsheet, and can take over your budget overnight. It's not theoretical, it's deeply personal. That expense? Healthcare. Health isn't an expense, it's volatility. When people think about healthcare in retirement, they usually picture insurance premiums and pharmacy bills. But health doesn't behave like a fixed cost. It's volatile. One month everything's calm, the next, chaos. A simple checkup can turn into a string of tests. A minor fall can lead to surgery and months of therapy. And here's the danger. When health issues hit, you don't think about money. You just want to fix it. That's when money flows out fast and without filters. One retiree told me he fell off a ladder while cleaning his gutters. The result? Shoulder surgery, medications, physical therapy, $28,000 in 4 months. And this happened when he thought everything was already taken care of. The truth is, health doesn't give warnings. And unlike a vacation, you don't get to choose when it happens. That's why treating healthcare like a regular expense is a major retirement mistake. It needs to be treated as risk, as financial volatility. Here's the rule I always share. Create a dedicated healthcare reserve, 3 to 5 years worth of medical expenses, held in conservative investments. That cushion protects you from the unpredictable without derailing your retirement plan. Another tip, know your coverage inside and out and supplement it with targeted insurance if needed. Dental, vision, or critical illness plans. Often, the cost is tiny compared to the financial disaster they can prevent. And don't forget, review your health needs every year. New prescriptions, added exams, lifestyle changes, they all evolve. Proactive healthcare is also investing for retirement. Walks, balanced eating, regular checkups. These habits extend not just your life, but your financial stability. Prevention is still the most affordable and dignified form of protection. But even with all this preparation, there's one trap that can undo everything. Because no matter how much you save, plan, or calculate, if you fall into this mindset, retirement starts feeling like walking a tightrope. It's the mistake of believing that security is a feeling, when in reality, it's a system. The final mistake, waiting to feel safe, instead of building a system. The biggest trap in retirement isn't financial, it's psychological. Most people believe that one day they'll feel secure, that they'll wake up, check their account balance and think, now I can finally relax. But real security doesn't come from emotion. It comes from structure, from systems, from the rules you design to protect yourself when life gets unpredictable. That's worth far more than any pretty number on a statement. Think of a plane flying through clear skies. No turbulence, no clouds, just calm. Yet the pilot still follows instruments, checklists, and flight paths. Why? Because safety doesn't come from the calm. It comes from the system that's ready when the storm hits. Retirement works the same way. You can enjoy years of smooth sailing, but without a system, any surprise becomes chaos. And when chaos comes, fear takes over. A solid system means knowing exactly when to spend more, when to tighten up, when to review your plan, and when to pause luxuries. It's understanding which accounts to draw from first, like we discussed earlier, how to respond to market swings, and when to consult a financial planner. It's about creating simple rituals, reviewing expenses every quarter, reassessing your investments twice a year, and checking your healthcare plan whenever something changes. It doesn't have to be complicated, just consistent. I know a couple who started what they call Sunday rituals. Every first Sunday of the month, they sit down with coffee, review their finances, revisit goals, and realign priorities. It takes less than 40 minutes, but it gives them peace, clarity, and most importantly, partnership. They don't live at the mercy of emotions. They live with a cockpit view of their financial life. And that's what freedom actually feels like.